I'm Dave Warnock, and I'm dying of ALS. I got caught up in the Jesus movement after high school, and by 1974, I was a full-on Jesus freak. Bell bottoms, wooden cross, big Bible, not really into church because in our view, all the churches were dead, and Jesus was alive, and he was coming back soon, by the way, and still is, apparently. But we thought literally that this could be the day, the moment. We looked at the clouds thinking one of them might be him coming with the clouds as he said he would. I did street ministry, street preaching, ran a coffee house that I opened up, just felt the urgency to reach people. That's why I didn't go to college, because the time was too short. I couldn't waste it on getting a degree and having a career. I needed to save people. I was all in for the better part of my adult life. All those years, there would be times when I would wonder, where was God? There would be times when I would think, the God that I believed in should have been here. I believed in a God who was involved, who was present, who answered prayer, who did miracles, who healed people. I never saw anybody healed, but I believed he did. And when those times came, when church members were stricken with cancer at a young age, when children were dying with leukemia, when accidents would happen, and we had a church member that was burned and was all summer in a burn unit, and the whole church was doing 24/7 prayer for him, and he died. And then 2 years later, his wife got cancer and died, leaving 2 boys orphaned. I didn't see God answering prayer, but I would over the years just see that and then stuff it down into some place where I wouldn't have to deal with it. And over time, that just took its toll on me. And at the end of it, as I look back, when I came to the conclusion that God wasn't real and that I'd believed a lie all my life, I really just kind of summarize it by saying, I got tired of making excuses for God's poor behavior. After several months of symptoms that were confusing and troublesome, I received the diagnosis on February 26th that I have ALS. And with that diagnosis comes a prognosis of 3 to 5 years of life. Those 3 to 5 years include the last 2 or 3 of those years being immobilized as my body quits working, as my muscles atrophy because the nerves aren't communicating with them. And I realized that if I've got 3 to 5 years to live, that means I may have 1 or 2 good years. When I got the diagnosis, my reaction was pretty immediate in terms of how I felt. I didn't get angry or depressed. It was a kind of a matter of fact, like, okay, here's where we are. Now what am I going to do? And I quickly grabbed the idea that I'm only interested in the quality of the time I have left, not the quantity of it. And so I made a quick decision to grab as much life as I could and do as much as I could do with the time I had left. I quit working. I was working in the insurance business, and I couldn't form the letters right in the applications anyway, so that was going to be a problem. And I thought, I'm going to sell my stuff and travel as much as I can till the money runs out. And I just kind of made a phrase that I kind of coined and use is carpe the fucking diem. Grab the moments, live, seize the day. And that's what I started doing. And it was a decision I've never regretted, because I made Early on, I learned in the ALS community, in any health challenged community, there are people who spend all their time and energy trying to stay alive, to do everything they can to chase after this and chase after that and hope for this and hope for that. And all their attention, all their energy is focused on staying alive. And there's other people, and I'm in this group, where our energy and focus is on living. And there's a huge difference between staying alive and living. You know, the phrase, there are no atheists in foxholes. People say that, and what they mean by that is that when the chips are down, when you're really facing the end, you're going to run back to God, because in your heart, you know He's there anyway. No, that's not true. I'm in a foxhole, and I'm an atheist. And as Ron Reagan says, not afraid of burning in hell. And I've been asked many times, did you ever consider that maybe God was judging you? Or maybe if you return to God, that He'll do something about this? Never for an instant. Once I came to the end of my faith, there was such finality to it that nothing has ever caused me to reconsider that. It just, plus the fact that a good portion of the people who have ALS and are dying with it and doing a lot worse than me, by the way, they love them some Jesus, and He doesn't seem to be helping them. So, no, I'm not. There's nothing in me that would reconsider. It wasn't like a choice I made. It wasn't a decision. I didn't wake up one day and said, I'm going to decide to be an atheist now. It was a conclusion I came to. And you can't put the genie back in the bottle. You can't unsee that. You can't unhear that. You can't unknow that. It's a done deal. And people who say that you can choose what you want to believe in don't understand how belief works. What I've learned with my diagnosis is that I've been given a gift. I've been given a gift of focus, and that sounds like a positive thinking cliche, but it really is true from my perspective, and I've got a unique perspective, because we all know we're going to die. We all know we're going to die. We know that none of us get out of this alive, but most of us don't know when or how long we're going to live. Am I going to become an old, feeble person? Am I going to get hit by a bus? No one ever gets hit by a bus. We always say that. It's always something else. But I've been given this glimpse into my final chapter, and in a way that has helped me sharpen my focus and make sure that I'm grabbing the moments. And that's what I talked about a lot in my Dying Out Loud stuff. It should probably be called Living Out Loud, but Dying Out Loud sounds better. It's about the moments, and if we miss it, if we don't realize that life is nothing but a collection of moments. And in Christianity, we were taught that there has to be a big purpose. There has to be a big design, a big plan. God has a wonderful plan for your life. He doesn't, by the way. But we're taught that, and everything has to fit into that plan. And an ALS diagnosis as a Christian is very confusing, because then you have to factor, where is God in this? With me, I don't. It's not confusing. Life is random and chaotic, and I just happen to be someone who got a diagnosis like this. Why would I think that I shouldn't be the one? People say, aren't you angry that you got diagnosed with this? Who am I to think that it shouldn't be me? There are a certain number of people that get it every year, and I just happen to be one. It's as random as it gets. But it's allowed me to focus on the moments and to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to grab the moments and not miss them. And that's a gift. It really is. The Dying Out Loud thing just kind of organically started, and I started doing shows and traveling and speaking. But I also had bucket list things, like things I wanted to experience. Bevan and I went to the Grand Canyon, and we flew in a helicopter over the Grand Canyon. You can't put a price on that. You just can't. It's just like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And I know a lot of people have done that, but I never did it until I thought my life's running out. I better do some shit. I jumped out of an airplane with a parachute and a guy on my back, so totally safe. I'm gonna go scuba diving. I'm traveling as much as I can, even though it's really hard because my body's giving out and everything I do takes so much effort. But I get there and I realize it's worth the effort, because if I'm not doing this, if I'm not pursuing moments, then I'm just sitting around waiting to die. People ask me about, are you afraid to die? What about the end of, but ALS is an ugly disease. It will take everything from me eventually. It's hard to go through that. It's hard for Bevan and the people around someone like me watching that happen. I have to decide how much of that I'm willing to take. How long will I let it go? I don't believe that we have to go until, as they say, God calls us home, because first of all, I don't believe in God. Therefore, I don't believe he calls us anywhere. I believe we perish. I'm not afraid to die because death is nothing more than the natural result of living. There's nothing to be afraid of. I'll go to sleep and I won't be aware that I didn't wake up. So I won't be aware that I'm dead. So I don't know what's scary about that. And it's odd to me that the ones who seem to fear it the most and put it off the longest are the Christians. And they're supposed to be going to paradise. You'd think they would be, okay, let me go. Mm-mm. Something's amiss here. I don't believe that we die well in this country, in much of the world. And I believe that a lot of that is because the undercurrent of religion. A lot of people say that you can't play God and that you have to let your natural life end naturally and that God will take you when he's ready to. And if that's the case, then he's a sadistic thug, because people like in my situation and with terminal cancer and others, dementia, there's some horrible endings of life. And we force people to go to the bitter end when sometimes years when they're ready to go. They're ready. You meet people all the time. I'm ready to go. I want to go. I'm ready to go. But we can't let them go because religion says we can't. Well, that's bullshit. People play God every day when they go to the doctor. They play God every day when they get surgery. That's insane. I intend to have those things under my control. I work with a group called the Final Exit Network that's not dependent on death with dignity laws in some of the states. There's a handful of states that have some laws, and I don't think that those laws are even close to what they need to be. They're still very restrictive. And for someone like me, when my body will have quit functioning on almost every level, and I will be unable to do anything for myself until my lungs will quit working or my diaphragm will quit working and I can't breathe, I'm not interested in going that far. So the Final Exit Network is a wonderful organization that I work with, and they help people like me have choices and take things into control later. And when I get to the point when the losses are greater than the wins, then I'm going to say goodbye. I've been telling people as much as I can that if you don't like the story that's being written about your life, take the pen and write it yourself. I know there are people who live their lives and they go to work and they come home and they watch TV, live their lives and go to work and come home and watch TV, take a 2-week vacation or 1-week vacation every year. And I guess some people are okay with that. They're happy with that. If you are, that's fine. But if you're not, do something different. You've got one life. There's a quote that I heard early on. It's the end of a poem called My Soul Has a Hat by Mario de Andrade. And the last line is that we have 2 lives, and the second one begins when you realize you only have one. And we put that on a new t-shirt, by the way, at our merch store at daveoutloud.com. Shameless plug. But it's really true. And so what I tell people with the Dying Out Loud message is You're the one that's responsible for your life. You get one shot at this. And if you don't like the way it's going, if you want to get the most out of it, then it's up to you to do it. There's no second chance at this. If you are happy with, we've all heard this phrase, you don't regret, at the end of your life, you don't regret the things you did. You regret the things you didn't do. And so my message is life is beautiful. It's rare, it's brief, it's chaotic, it's unpredictable. And it's up to you to get what you can out of it. And the most gratifying part of my life has been the last couple years as I'm dying of ALS and talking about that, because I've heard from so many people who've heard my message and in dire situations, depression, cancer, PTSD, and they're telling me how the simple talking about living and dying is helping them refocus and put more energy into living than they were before. And that has meant everything to me.